December 20th, 1943. A crippled B-17 flying fortress, codenamed Lucky Strike, staggers across the English Channel. Smoke trailing, metal shrieking, hydraulic fluid painting red streaks across its silver skin. One engine gone. The landing gear jammed. The ball turret twisted. Its gunner lost over Bremen. By every rule of physics, that bomber should have fallen into the sea 20 minutes ago. But somehow, it didn't. And the secret that kept it alive wasn't in any manual, blueprint, or Air Force directive. It was hiding in a hangar 200 yards away, in the hands of a mechanic who refused to follow the rules. When Lucky Strike touched down at RAF Bassingbourn, it came in on one landing gear leg. Sparks flying across the tarmac. Fire crews raced forward, expecting body bags. Instead, 8 men climbed out, bloodied, shaken, alive. Colonel James Albertson stood staring at the wreckage. "How?" he whispered. The official report would take months. But the real answer? It was already working in secret, hidden in the hands of one stubborn genius named Staff Sergeant Paul Zuk. Paul Zuk wasn't supposed to fix airplanes. He was supposed to fix trucks. A grease-stained mechanic from Pittsburgh's Polish Hill, who'd spent the Depression keeping coal haulers and bootleggers' cars running on pennies. He didn't learn from textbooks. He learned from desperation. Make it work, or it doesn't get fixed. That was his law. When he arrived in England in 1943, he watched a B-17 get grounded for a cracked hydraulic line. A simple fix delayed by bureaucracy. The replacement part was weeks away. The mission flew one plane short. Zuk asked, "Why not bypass the line and reroute the fluid?" The crew chief scowled. "That's not in the manual," Zuk smirked. "The manual didn't grow up fixing trucks during the Depression. I did." The flying fortress was legendary, built to take punishment and bring its crew home. But in late 1943, something was wrong. Bombers were going down. Not from direct hits, but from small ones. One lucky burst of flak, and an entire system would fail. The B-17's design was beautiful on paper, efficient, streamlined, but dangerously centralized. A single fragment through 6 inches of fuselage could kill hydraulics, power, and fuel flow all at once. Without hydraulics, pilots couldn't lower landing gear or flaps. Without fuel pressure, engines sputtered out one by one. Planes that should have limped home fell from the sky, not because they were destroyed, but because they choked to death on their own design flaws. Zuk saw it. He tore open the belly of a wrecked fortress and realized the problem wasn't enemy fire. It was how the plane was built. So, he did what no manual allowed. He started rewiring the system. Using scavenged parts, scrap tubing, and pure instinct, he built backup hydraulic lines, redundant systems that mimicked the main ones but followed different routes. He added isolation valves, tucked them where pilots could reach mid-flight. If a line got shredded, they could flip a valve and rewrote pressure in seconds. He rerouted fuel lines, too, installing manual crossover valves so pilots could isolate damaged tanks and feed the engines from others. And when it came to power, he created secret electrical lifelines, yellow-wired circuits running directly from the auxiliary generator to vital instruments and gun turrets. The result wasn't elegant. It looked like a plumber's nightmare. But when flak tore through a wing, Zuk's ugly plumbing kept planes alive. February 1944. Engineering officer Captain Ronald Fletcher inspected a B-17 called Devil's Daughter. What he found inside made his stomach drop. 40 feet of unauthorized hydraulic line, handmade valves, and wiring that didn't exist on any Boeing blueprint. He confronted Zuk. "How many planes did you modify?" 17, Zuk said flatly. 17, Fletcher nearly shouted. Then he asked the question that changed everything. "Have any of them failed in combat?" Zuk opened his grease-stained notebook. 3 took direct hits to their hydraulics. All 3 came home. An official investigation began, with engineers, colonels, and clipboard-wielding bureaucrats crawling through Zuk's creations. The Boeing engineers were horrified. This violates every design standard. Zuk just wiped his hands on a rag. "When's the last time you flew through flak?" he asked. They couldn't answer. Finally, the Air Force decided to test it, for real. They equipped 5 modified bombers with pressure gauges and sensors, then sent them on combat missions to Berlin, Brunswick, Friedrichshafen. Each plane carried Zuk's systems. Each faced enemy fire. Every one of them came back. One bomber, Memphis Belle Tusetu, took a direct 80mm hit through its hydraulic bay. The main system bled dry in seconds. The pilot flipped Zuk's valves, pressure stabilized. The plane stayed in formation, dropped its bombs, and landed safely back at base. The engineers watched the data in disbelief. "This shouldn't work," one whispered. Zuk just grinned. "It works, because it's built to survive when everything's already gone to hell." Word spread faster than official memos ever could. Mechanics across England whispered Zuk's name, at Molesworth, at Thorpe Abbott's, at Kimballton. They copied his designs by flashlight in the dead of night. They didn't wait for permission. They just wanted their crews to come home. By May 1944, over 100 B-17s had Zuk's modifications, officially or not. The results were staggering. Planes that used to vanish over Germany were limping back, battered but alive. Loss rates dropped. Abort rates fell by half. For every fortress that came home, 10 more lives were saved. In April, the Air Force finally made it official. Sort of. They issued Technical Order 0120-EG-2127, authorizing enhanced hydraulic redundancy. But it only covered half of Zuk's work. The fuel and electrical fixes, the ones that truly saved lives, remained unauthorized. Zuk didn't care. He kept working after hours, installing the full system because he knew the paperwork didn't matter. Survival did. By June, the data was undeniable. Groups that had adopted Zuk's modifications had survival rates nearly double the average. The engineers stopped arguing. The brass stopped asking questions. They just let him work. When the war ended, the statistics told the story. A quiet Air Force report, buried in archives, calculated the truth. Over 347 bombers returned home that otherwise wouldn't have. That's more than 3,000 men who lived because one mechanic ignored the rulebook. Zuk left the service in 1945, went back to Pittsburgh, and reopened his garage. He never boasted. He never told customers that the man changing their oil once redesigned the systems that saved entire bomber crews. In 1973, a historian found him still working, still humble. When asked why he'd risked court-martial, Zuk just shrugged. Didn't seem risky. Guys were dying. I could fix it, or I could follow the manual. Easy choice. Paul Zuk died in 1989. His name never made the textbooks, but the systems he built, the redundant hydraulics, the rerouted fuel lines, the backup power circuits, became standard in every bomber that followed. His grease-stained notebooks now rest in the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. 47 journals filled with sketches, notes, and the fingerprints of a man who saved lives with nothing but instinct, courage, and a wrench. The engineers wrote the manuals. Zuk wrote survival, because sometimes the difference between a wreck and a miracle is just one mechanic who refuses to do things by the book. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more forgotten tales of ingenuity, courage, and the human spirit. The stories that remind us that real heroes don't always fly the planes.